Me? I'm muted? Oh no. We just went live.
You're
so,
good.
um, so technically, it sounds like my sound is a little low today, but I'll speak up. Welcome to Real Estate Now, everybody. It is Thursday morning, 10 a.m., and I'm joined with my co-host Stacy Chevalier. Good morning, Stacy.
Good morning. I'm excited. I'm out and I'm in the Bellevue office. It's fun times here.
Yay! So you're the one person in our office today, which is our procedure in that respect. So
Me
you
today. I win.
I win. Ta-da. Um, so right on, we got a great show today, stacked up. A lot of people are buying houses. A lot of people are inspecting those houses, and they really don't know what they're walking into as far as what an inspection is, what they should be doing, what they can ask their inspector. And so we've got Bob Gross here with us today, BPG Inspections, a gentleman I've known through the industry for gosh, I want to say 5 years now. That's amazing. But Bob will be with us just in 1 second. Wanted to inspect something on our front here really quick, and that's interest rates. Like we do every week, we're inspecting the interest rates, and they're ticking down just a little bit, a 0.01% tick down this week. I'm seeing a trend, guys. I don't want to be a Debbie Downer, a negative Nancy. I don't want to be that guy, but I'm seeing a trend where we might actually see that tick back up. What do you think, Stace?
Well, even if it ticks up, it's going to go back
It's gonna
down.
go back down. Fair enough. So there's just been some interesting pressure on the secondary market here in the past week and a half, 2 weeks, that things are flattening out. So I think we may be hitting that trough. That we're just going to stay here. Um, my my little tick up maybe just quickly, but to Stacy's point, I think we will go back down. But really
Yeah.
interesting time right now. Still an amazing time to buy. Still an amazing time to refinance that house and take advantage of amazingly low rates. Um, so don't hesitate. Get after it. Changing gears, we're going into what I think I've seen slower season of purchases, and hopefully we can talk about a practice that I've seen this past summer, which is a bunch of multiple offers and people waiving inspection. So we're going to bring Bob in really quick, the inspector, and get his opinion. Right, we're going to put him right in the hot seat and ask him, "Hey, Bob, welcome to the show."
Hi.
Bob.
Hi. Thanks for having me.
Right in the hot seat. You were listening,
Yeah.
and there's been a practice through the summer months because it's so competitive, as you know. The
hmm
market's competitive, right?
Yep.
Yeah. So people have been waiving inspections, and just from your seat, from an inspector's seat, what's your take on that?
It's a horrible idea, and I'm not just saying that because I sell inspections for a living, although I do sell inspections for a living. It's just a horrible idea. If you waive inspection on a house built before 1970, you are just asking for oh my. If you bought a house, if you're looking at a house, like here's the multiple offer situation that just sends a chill up my spine. And it's not even my world. My world is inspections, but the 1935 house that's 900 square feet, cuter than a button, the little bungalow, that's in North Seattle or South Seattle, built in the 30s or 40s, and people are waiving inspections on that. You can have collapsed sewer lines, you can have old plumbing and old wiring, you can have just all kinds of stuff. I think you need to get every house inspected, including new construction. But definitely on these multiple offer situations, one of the things that I've been able to do to kind of bridge the gap, a lot of agents, and this strategy actually came from agents, they'll get me in there a couple hours before the offers due or a day before the offers are due, and I do a run through to see whether there's something major there, and then that way they can bid forward. Sometimes people waive inspections that way. They've technically done one, but they're waiving it because they already know what the major issues are. I'm seeing that a lot, but I don't think you should ever waive inspection.
So that's
So when
actually
they do that, is it maybe, I don't know if this is a Keith or Bob question, but if they do what Bob just stated, Does it say it's waived on the contract?
Sometimes, yes. So it's weird. I don't. Again, I'm not an agent, so I don't. The strategy is like beyond me. But I've been standing in houses doing an inspection. The offer review date is Tuesday at noon. It's Monday morning, and I'm at the house, and they're like, "Okay, so," and they'll turn to their clients. They'll say, "Okay, we did this so we can waive inspection." So they can waive it as a contingency, and I'm there basically to tell them, is the roof going to collapse on them? What are literally almost give them a maintenance list for the house going forward, so that when they bid on and they go way over listing price, and the whole time I'm thinking, you're going to go 70 over listing price, and when you're done, you need another 70 to fix the house. But people do it.
Well, they go in eyes wide open at that point, right?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
wow, yeah, it's an interesting market right now, and we are a buyer beware state, right?
Yeah.
So if you go in and you make that purchase and you didn't do your due diligence of checking out that foundation, or like you said, the sewer line, that's your problem to fix.
Yeah,
So,
and it's been like this. I've been doing this 7 years. It's been like this 3 or 4 times, and I just hate it. And the reason I hate it is because, and I realize that it's not up to me to list a ton of houses, but when there's low listings and there's tons of offers like this, I just think that the consumer gets beat up a lot.
yeah, there's definitely more risk on the consumer side.
Yeah.
NAR just published September numbers, and year to date, we're 19% lower in inventory coast to coast than we were last year. And last year was not a banner year for inventory. It's crazy.
No, I mean, last year I remember sitting in something in January of 2019, and somebody said there were 3 weeks of supply in Bothell. 3 weeks, not even a full month.
Yep.
Yeah, that's where we're at now.
Right
We're under 3 weeks now in the Tri-County area market.
Yeah, and now we're 19%. Yeah, exactly. We're 19% lower, so now it's even less. More.
Yeah, I think last time I checked, we were under 2 weeks.
Yeah.
So I want to circle back on something.
Sure.
You said, that 1940s bungalow. I think the majority of us out there can say, yeah, that needs to be inspected. We should. The logic is there, but you said something else there too that may or may not have been picked up by our audience. You said new construction should be inspected.
Yes, absolutely.
Can you expand on that?
There's a labor shortage.
Okay.
Prices are going up, but the big thing is there's a labor shortage, and there has been for a while. So picture you're building a house, or you're building 70 houses, or you're building 80 houses, or 340 houses, or however many houses. Let's say like a D.R. Horton is building right now. If you have a labor shortage, you're constantly running guys from one place to the other. New construction, I think, needs to be inspected now more than ever before. And the reason is it all goes back to just one simple phrase. They're in a huge hurry. They're just in a massive hurry. These guys have figured out, I can finish a house in X amount of days, but they can't get the labor there to finish a house in that many days. And when you've got guys jumping from site to site, like a guy will go to Mukilteo and finish 3 houses, and then they'll pull him and they'll be like, no, I need you to go to Bothell because I got 4 houses that are going to close next week, and I got people on me for the house. So they go there, and then they come here, and then they go there. And almost everything I see in new construction goes back to a very basic theme. They were in a hurry. They walked off on a Friday. Somebody never picked it up on Monday. It might have been a different guy. They may have never circled back. New construction, I'm seeing some stuff where I walked into a house, new construction. There were no downspouts.
What?
There just weren't any downspouts. I mean,
that's because it doesn't rain here in Washington, Bob.
Well, it was the summer months. Give the guy a break. Not till
That's
October.
awesome.
They don't need to be.
What if the builder has a 10-year warranty? Do you still think it's a needed thing?
Yes, I do.
Yeah.
It helps you. It helps get. They don't like me being there pointing out the things that they didn't finish, and I get that. But it gives you a list of the things that weren't finished. And I've walked into many new construction houses. I walked into one yesterday or 2 days ago. $1.3 million in Briar. First of all, let that sink in. $1.3 million in Briar. And by the way, there's like 8 of those houses, and they're massive and beautiful. So I walk in, and we've delayed this new construction inspection 3 times now over the last 6 weeks. Bob, it's done. Here we go. Bob walks in. None of the outlets in the kitchen work. None of the appliances in the kitchen are hooked up. The water heater's unplugged, and the front is off of the electrical panel, and a bunch of the breakers are off, which means electrician's here, and he's working on it. Except the electrician isn't there, and he's not working on it. The cover's just been taken off, and the breakers have been tripped. So I don't trip breakers and start over again. This is a $1.3 million house. When it's done, it's going to be spectacular. I mean, this place is, you can't believe the finishes. It's got the waterfall countertop that goes like this. It doesn't have a sink that works. It doesn't have a dishwasher that works. The stove doesn't work. The gas is hooked up, but since the electricity is not hooked up, the gas burners won't fire because there's no little ticker. I mean, and this is stuff where someone said to the agent, "Oh, it's done. We're ready." And we went into this house. Me and another guy did it because it was 3,300 square feet. We went down to the deck. The deck had been built to the nines. I mean, built like the deck you want. And there's 2 bolts that hold the deck to the house. And there's a little piece of all thread rod that comes out, and there's a little nut that goes on the end. The little nut on the end was not on the end. So the bolts are there. The brackets are there. It's completely installed. We're 10 feet tall and bulletproof, and somebody needs to take 2 little nuts and go like this so that it's attached to the house. I mean, it's simple. I forgot stuff.
So close.
I mean, and you'll see many times when I do a new construction inspection, I'll get feedback through the agents of, well, the superintendent said he was going to finish it. Okay, when?
So you made a comment right before we went live that not to expect new construction to close on time right now, and so this is what you're referring to. It'll be delayed as they finish up the house.
Yes, I've had 5 new I look for patterns, obviously, like you guys do. I mean, patterns are life. Mm-hmm. I've had 5 new construction people lately that were almost in tears because they'd sold their house, they'd been promised. Now their worst nightmare has just come back to fruition. They're back living with their parents in the basement for 6 extra weeks, 8 extra weeks. Sometimes they have what are the reasons why people buy a house? The 3 and the 6-year-old just got a little brother. So now the 3 and the 6-year-old and the baby are moving into mom's basement for 6 or 8 weeks. Do you see where the conflict comes in?
Yeah, that's a big conflict.
The house isn't finished yet. It's just
because everybody wants their newborn in the basement of their parents' house.
Absolutely. Well, and especially if you're promised your house by Christmas, what you really want to hear is it's probably going to be January now.
Yeah. What do you think of Easter? Easter's coming up.
Well, and the first thing I think of, because I'm like you guys, I'm one of the vendors that's in this row, is I think to myself, does your loan officer know that we're delaying again? I mean, you just, I'm just not seeing new construction get finished on time is what I guess I'm saying.
Yeah, and you hit the nail on the head. It's about manpower. They just don't have it. So
yeah, but also I just want to say, I mean, that's just because there are other people watching that we are seeing some builders finish on time, and it's almost a reverse effect. They're coming to us, the lender, because we're also backed up, saying if you do not close this loan on time, we're charging the consumer, $100 a day, $300 a day for closing. So I know so if you're out there buying new construction, you might happen to have a builder that's going to close on time, and we are working hard to get that done for you.
Yeah. Well, I'm sure the one thing that your underwriters want to hear right now is, hey, could you hurry up a smidge? I'm sure that goes over well. I bet that's just a great conversation for you guys.
Yeah. Lots of volume right now. Johanna put up a question. I want to go back to it. Is that if the pre-inspection is done, doesn't that take the risk out of waiving the inspection? Want to confirm I heard it correctly.
I am not going to say whether that takes the risk out of waiving inspection. It tells you whether you know. It gives you the information that you would know from an inspection, but whether it takes all of the risk out when you would be a question for your managing broker. That's a managing broker question. That's not a me question. I know that I try to give the same amount of information. Well, I do. I give the same amount of information, in a pre-inspection that I do on a post-inspection. But whether that takes the risk out of it, I couldn't say 100% for sure. I assume so, but I really don't know. Ask your managing broker is what I would say on that one.
That's a great answer. Ask the managing broker.
In my head, I would go to the fact that I would guess that it means you can't go back and say things need to be fixed if you've waived inspection.
Yes.
Even if you know what they are, and you could back out of the offer. But yeah, I agree. Talk to the managing broker.
Yeah.
Great question. I love the questions. If you have questions, keep them coming. But wanted to move back to more of a fundamental question. Like when you go to inspect a house, what's your scope of work? What are you doing for the buyer, or maybe you're re-inspecting a house that they've closed on and they just want an inspection down the road?
Yeah. I always equate it to a home inspection is like taking your car to the mechanic. I literally look at everything and tell you the condition of it. A typical wrap up for me at the end of an inspection would be, I would tell them what condition the roof's in, how much life it has left in it. Is the siding good on that house? What are the windows like? Do you think the windows need to be replaced? What a big one that comes up a lot, right, Keith? What kind of plumbing and electrical's in that house? I mean, that comes up a lot.
No knob and tube.
You buy a house built in the 50s or 60s, and you're right on that cusp, and you just never know. I look at the foundation, look for big cracks, and if they're big cracks, then I refer to a foundation person. It's really a way to get a rundown of what is the condition of the house that I just bought. The big thing that really seems to always open people's eyes, they know this and they forget it, is I'm going in the attic and I'm going in the crawl space. And those are two places nobody ever goes.
Mm-hmm.
No one ever goes into there, and I, myself included, I barely go into my crawl space is nasty. and no one's paying me. I'm not going in there if I don't have to, And my attic, I know what condition my attic's in because I see it a lot. But it's the truth is usually, especially in the older houses, is in a crawl space. That's where a lot of the plumbing leaks are. That's where pest activity lies. That's where you can find out whether the electrician's an electrician or a guy named Lou from up the street. You see wires hanging down, all kinds of fun stuff. So it's like taking your car to the mechanic.
Gotcha. Now, so many times a lot of folks think that you're going to give them a value of the house. Like, hey, is this value right? You don't get involved in value, right?
No, that's a conversation where I turn mute. One of the only times I get quiet. I'm like, No, I do that, not the managing broker thing, but there's an agent standing there because an agent has to let me in because that's the way the Northwest MLS works. And I always say, if you're looking for value or what's this worth or what does this mean for value on this house or what does that mean for appraisal, that's on your agent. I'm like, And then if the agent doesn't start talking, I'm like, together, and I say, you two should talk. No, value on a house, I do not touch at all. That's appraisers and banks.
Yeah, inspectors
you
are there.
Go ahead.
Go for it. No,
go ahead. Okay, I was going to say, since you mentioned that the agent was there, who else should be in the home while you do the inspection?
Of course, obviously I'm required, and there's required to be an agent at the house to let me in. I like it when the clients are there, but they don't have to be. Some of them have a job at Amazon that just won't give them the day off, which I think is weird, but anyway. Some of them, have A couple of them have been teachers, and they're teaching during the middle of the day, and that was the only time slot I had. But I like it when the people that are buying the house are there, and the agents there. That's my perfect ideal world. Once in a while, the clients will introduce extra people, and that can get a little dicey.
Uncle Joe,
yeah.
the contractor.
Uncle Joe used to be a contractor. My friend Dave, who used to be an electrician. My friend. A couple of people have brought their entire family because they're showing off the house. They're excited.
Right.
That can get interesting because I try. My ideal world with wrap up is the agent and the client are standing there, and I start talking about the house. And I'm doing my wrap up at the end, and it takes me like 4 or 5 minutes. This is the condition of the roof. This is the condition. Imagine if there's, I don't know, 9 people, and one of them's grandpa, one of them's dad, and mom, and then you get family dynamics, and then you get these clients that are over here. They're like, they're buying the house.
Right.
But sometimes it can become really interesting when they bring extra people.
So I want to speak to this a little deeper because, in full disclosure, Bob, you inspected my house when I bought here in Issaquah, and it's great to be able to, and also in full disclosure, the finish elements of this house were suspect, right? So it was great.
There was some Uncle Joe work in that house, yeah.
Yeah, there was some Uncle Joe work in that house, but it was great that I could ask you, like, okay, what really is this? What's the fundamental here? And some things you were able to point me in the direction of. Others, you're like, yeah, you're going to want to have that checked out by the electrician. You're going to want to have that checked out by the next person, the specific contractor for that related topic.
Yes.
So I think as a homeowner, as a client, it gives you that security to know how much deeper you need to inspect, as well as, I do mortgages for a living. I have built a tree house. You should probably come over and inspect my tree house to make sure I built it right, Bob.
I'm just going to trust that you and your brother knew what you were doing.
Yeah, there you go. But it gives you like a range, like, okay, hey, I can take care of this stuff, or it's like, oh crap, I'm in over my head. So for us, it was super powerful. So
well, and I remember your house in particular. I couldn't find anything wrong with your deck.
I know you were excited about that.
I was really excited. I was like, I'm not going to crush his hopes and dreams today.
It's a very large back deck that I have on this house,
and it's built really well.
Yeah,
I was shocked about because more than half of the decks, you're just like, who did this exactly?
Joe was at it again.
Oh, Uncle Joe.
Oh, Joe. So, there was one other thing that I wanted to talk about. We have value, and a lot of folks think that the inspection needs to be sent to the lender, right? So let's talk about that really quick. Your relationship with the client is for the benefit of the client, correct?
So I enter into a contract when I do a home inspection between myself and the person paying the bill. And that's it. So the truth is, let's say I have a couple in front of me and they want to buy a house. They could have me come out, inspect the house, take my inspection report, and never give it to anyone, including their agent if they didn't want to, because the contract is just strictly between me and whoever's paying the bill, which is the clients in this case. I always say to them, I'm assuming you want me to share this with your agent, and they do. There's been an update to the way we do inspections as far as the agents are involved. They no longer can forward an entire inspection report to another agent unless certain things are requested. So they'll have to make sure they don't do that. But to your point, Keith, and this happens to me 2 or 3 times a year, someone will forward their report to the lending officer, and that is just, I mean, forgive me, I'm looking at 2 loan officers, but I'm just going to say it out loud. That's the worst idea you could ever have in your life. You don't want to give your loan people any reason not to write the loan. And as soon as it's in their inbox, you are insert your word here that's inappropriate.
Up to your knees.
Yeah.
You're up to your knees in it.
Yeah, it's not good, and you would think to yourself. So when I teach the classes I teach, I get in front of agents and I say, in my one class, I talk about, hey, you really should never forward your inspection reports to loan officers, and they always laugh. Oh, Bob, we'd never do that. And I always just literally, you can hear a pin drop when I say this. I go, twice a year somebody does it.
Mm-hmm.
Twice a year somebody forwards, my report. I got a phone call one time from a loan officer. He's like, hey, I'm looking at your report. I was like, oh, that's not good. Oh, this is so bad. This is so bad. This is the point at which I need to learn how to do the thing I don't know how to do, which is shut up and not talk. But it does happen. You really shouldn't forward your report to anyone other than your agent that represents you. Let that agent distribute it to anybody else, like the listing agent, if possible. But it should never go to an appraiser. It should never go to a loan officer. It should never go to anybody else. You own it. It's yours.
Yeah, you can always just finish that. You can pick up that call and say, yeah, I'm at. I can't click. You done with that one?
I'm a married Bill.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, so to that point, on the lending side, we order the appraisal, and we have our own person coming out to that house to inspect it. And part of that appraiser's job is to look for health and safety issues that we can identify. And that's as far as the bank wants to go, right? So just for everybody out there, the bank does not need to see the inspection. I get that question a lot. Hey, we just finished the inspection. Should we send you a copy? And Bob, to your point, I'm like, no, I do not want it. Thank you. I'm going to wave that one off. So that's something that whether your purchase and sale still has the inspection contingency in that, and they want to work with their agent to remedy anything inside the inspection, that's up to them. We just want to know what concessions are going to be made at the end, and we'll take that into account on the contract. Past that, we don't want to see any inspections because we got our appraiser going out there ourselves. So thanks for speaking to that.
So I have just a follow-up question on that. The appraiser does look for health and safety. Do you also look for health and safety issues, Bob?
I look for health and safety hazards all the time, like second floor decks with a loose railing and that kind of stuff. I will tell you, in the back of my mind, when I hear that it's a VA or an FHA loan, I turn it way up on health and safety hazards. Anything remotely, because I've had VA and FHA appraisers call out things like chipping paint, fascia boards that had chipping paint, loose railings. I would always call out a loose railing anyway, but when people tell me that they have a VA or an FHA loan, then I go the extra mile. Also, according to what I know, which I may not be right on this, and you guys can tell me if this is right or not, VA and FHA appraisers seem to be the only ones that pop their head in an attic or a crawl space. So I always tell people I've kind of added a little bit, even though I know nothing about appraisals, and I probably shouldn't even use the word in a sentence. I've gone an extra mile a couple times with clients and said, if this is a regular appraisal, it probably won't be that big a deal. But if it's an FHA or a VA appraisal, when they pop the hatch on the crawl space, that is clearly visible right there. Mm-hmm. I'm going to call that out.
And that's super important, especially on those two underwriters. FHA and VA both have mandates to go in crawl spaces and attics. And to your point, Bob, it's just like this. They open the hatch, they stick their camera in there, snap the picture, and pull it back. They're not getting down there and crawling wall to wall, but they're going to go see what's in there.
And so I'll make 2 points about that. Pest activity is always visible right at the hatch. So you're gonna notice rat activity at the hatch because I just realized which finger I was pulling down. I'll pull a different finger down. Whoops, sorry. Pest activity is always available. Is seen from the hatch because that's usually a place where a lot of heat is right at the crawl space hatch. Also, to your point about the attic hatch, every time there's knob and tube wiring in the attic, it is visible within 5 feet of the hatch. So your point, they pop up, they go click, 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 knob and tube, knob and tube, knob and tube, knob and tube. So the old wiring will be very, very, very visible.
Yeah, it's important, especially with those two underwriters. So it's something you want to definitely take into account. Here we are. We're already to our half an hour. That just flew by.
Yeah.
But I always like to leave people with proper motivation to take the next step. So maybe you could share with us one or two horror stories that you've come across in the last month or so. Like, what have you seen in the field that, thank God, they got an inspection?
I did a house a couple of months ago. It was the cutest little white farmhouse you've ever seen in your life. It was up in the Skagit Valley. It was on something called like Old Church Road. Big property, 8 acres, little cute little white farmhouse, dormers. I mean, this place was picture perfect. Green grass as far as the eye could see, farmland in the background. It was the Skagit Valley dream home. And I got in the crawl space, and the Annabid beetles, a wood-destroying organism, had eaten almost all of the support posts underneath the house. Now, they bought it anyway. I mean, people do. But
what year was the house built?
Yeah. 1904, 06-ish.
Okay.
Wow.
Something with a 0. And those houses before 1920, some of them were what were called post and pier houses. This was a post and pier house. And anytime it's post and pier, it's Annabid beetle season. It just is. Wow. They just that was one. The interesting thing is a lot of these people, no matter what I say, end up getting the house anyway. But I did one a couple of weeks ago where it had a new roof on it.
Oh.
It had a new roof patch, but the rest of the roof was not new. And so that was a fun little conversation. I came down and I said, it's not a new roof. And they said, well, it says, I always love when people do this. It says right here on a piece of paper that there is. Like, just had it in my hands. No. So then I turned my camera around. This is the greatest thing about digital cameras. You just turn it around, you put the picture up, and you wait. And you watch their face go, oh, okay. I get into houses all the time. I'll just give you 2 other examples and then I'll quit. I go into houses all the time where I hear no history of moisture intrusion. Okay, that's what the Form 17 says. And I get in the crawl space and there's a brand new sump pump.
Oh,
except for the pump that we put in that cost $2,500 that we didn't tell you about.
Right.
Oh, right. Okay.
So is that a pump to get rid of the water that's not there to begin with?
Yeah. We woke up one morning and we said to ourselves, honey, I was thinking we should spend $2,500 on a sub pump that we don't need.
Yeah.
And she just looked at you and said, you are the brightest. And this is why I married you. Sub pumps don't come out of nowhere. They come out of a need for something.
Yeah.
The last one that I'm seeing a lot lately is I go to a house and it's 6 bedrooms. That's a porch. It's not a bedroom.
Oh.
Yeah. So people are remodeling and expanding and doing all kinds of stuff. And I'm finding lots of remodels that are sketchy.
Wow.
Suspect. And a porch is
on remodel. We're gonna have to have Bob back and do this again.
Okay, I'll go ahead. There's lots of that.
Well, we're going to put your information here in the old posts and make sure that people can get a hold of you, Bob.
Sure,
if they've
appreciate
got any questions or anything, they can definitely reach out to you. But thank you so much for showing up today and just giving us a little glimpse into the world of inspections.
Thanks for having me. Appreciate you.
Yes, thank you.
Absolutely. Well, hang out backstage. We'll be there in a second. We're going to say goodbye to everybody. And Bob, have a great week, and we'll talk soon.
Thank you.
So there you have it. Get an inspection if you can. Pre-inspect to go and then waive the inspection. And talk to your agent about it, because you should get inspections.
You should hire Bob. How great was he? He just made my
Bob's
whole day.
awesome.
So fun.
So powerful. You need somebody, an advocate like that in your side, just to make sure. And you know, this is the one simple question, and Bob put it beautifully. People 100% of the time go get that car inspected when they're going to buy a car, but then they don't inspect the house. It's amazing to me. They're like, oh, I'm always going to get my car inspected, but I'm not going to go get my $700,000 house inspected. So just let that sink in. We'll see you next week. We got an amazing show stacked up next week with Amanda Jackson. And we'll be talking about student loans and how students can get qualified for mortgages and buy houses, even with hundreds of thousands of dollars of debt. So we'll see you next week, and have a great week.